Okay, so good evening, everyone. You're all very welcome to tonight's webinar titled Opportunities for Growth in 2022 with Pasturebase Ireland. My name is Joseph Dunphy, and I'm delighted to be joined once again by my Grass 10 colleague, John Douglas, and Micheál O'Leary, the coordinator of Pasturebase Ireland. We're also delighted to be joined here tonight by dairy farmer John Phelan from County Waterford, who, as you probably saw on social media there during the week, he completed his final closing cover. And so we're delighted he's a suite of pasture-based reports for us to analyse here from tonight on the webinar. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going again for tonight. Again, we've been our first webinar that we complete what we did was the 9th of December last year. So all our webinars are online on the Teagasc Grass 10 page to view back. So if you just Google Teagasc Grass 10 on the left-hand side of the page, you'll see the webinars subheading. And all the webinars are there to view, plus the PDF of the slides that was there on the night. So, and also just there's a Q&A box in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And if you have any questions for any of our panelists as we move through tonight, don't be afraid to put them in. So I suppose look at, when we're going through tonight, really and truly, it's a review of 2021, and we're talking about reviewing and analysing and all that. But just I suppose a quote that I came across during the day, and I suppose just I thought it summed up what we're going to discuss tonight, and that self-evaluation directs us to prepare our next performance from the past and today's experience. So I suppose essentially every year, when we're measuring grass and grass management or grass grazing management, it's a performance. So our next performance is a 2022 grazing season. So how can we look back on 2021 and prepare better for the 2022 year? So, and we have, as we talked already, there's a suite of reports on Pasturebase. And that, by sitting down some night with a cup of tea and going through these reports, we can identify areas for improvement in 2022. So as we said, performance appraisal of the 2021 grazing season. We want to make you aware of the many different reports that are available on Pasturebase tonight. And then we want to use, make you aware of our new Pasturebase scorecard. And I suppose to give yourself a score and to review the year for 2021 and identify a few areas for improvement in 2022. So just quickly, just on our structure for the webinar tonight, Micheál is just going to give us, as we move into December, we've come towards the end of the grazing year. Micheál is going to give us an update from Pasturebase Ireland. We're then going to move on to John Phelan and have a quick look at John's farm and some of his 2021 performance and some performance over the last few years. We're going to then go through the reports, the numerous different reports that are on Pasturebase Ireland. We're also going to have a look at what information beef and sheep farmers should analyse. I suppose along with a lot, as part of this webinar, and then we're going to just finally, conclude with the scorecard and give John a score, maybe identify a few areas for improvement in 2022. So look at Micheál, without further ado, I'll throw it over to yourself.
Perfect, Joseph, and good evening, everyone, and thanks again for coming and for tuning into this evening's webinar. It's great to see good numbers here again this evening. I suppose it's always encouraging that you're making the time, I suppose, to tune into us and make it worthwhile for everyone. So I suppose, look, we'll just kick off maybe with the grass growth curve. We can see 2021 there. I suppose it's in the green dotted line. Lot of ups and downs in it. Probably a very tricky year for I suppose managing grass, especially in mid-season when it was very sluggish. And then I suppose droughts and different bits and pieces hit, and I suppose we'll cover some of that there with John later. If we move to the next slide, Joseph, so just some trends, I suppose, from the average farmer, I suppose, or the average farmer on PBI. Roughly there was probably 300 kilos less grass grown in May. June came favourable. I suppose, look, temperatures were better. Probably a lot of nitrogen, a lot of slurry put out at that stage. In August, I suppose we were hit by a small bit of a drought on a lot of farms in the July, start of August, down about 300 kilos. And interestingly enough, then I suppose, as everyone, I suppose, is commenting that the back end was exceptional. And I suppose, look, 500 kilos or half a ton of grass per hectare. was grown over the September-October period. So there was quite a bit of grass grown in the back end. And I suppose just another fact as well is that we grew more grass in September 2021 compared to May 2021. So that'll really just tell you, May being our main grass growing month, or traditionally being our grass growing month anyway. But look, no 2 years are the same when it comes to grass. So I suppose that's why measurement is key to that. Then just to give you just an update on the usage on PBI, I suppose, look, there's about 12% more farmers using PBI. We can see there that I suppose the number of farmers that have done 10 covers or more in 2021 is over 2,600 now at this stage. So it's always good to see an increase. And I suppose on the back of that as well is that farmers are measuring more often. So we can see in 2021, the average number of covers completed per farmer was 20 covers, or just 20.2, and that's up from 18.8 in 2020. I suppose, look, there's a lot of attention on fertilizer and I suppose fertilizer prices, but we've also seen a big increase in the number of farms and the number of whole discussion groups recording their fertilizer and slurry applications on PBI in 2021 as well, which is great. And I suppose that'll really show them, I suppose, coming into 2022, how much fertilizer was applied to different paddocks. Did they get the return for spreading X, Y, and Z when it comes to grass growth? So we saw a 23% increase there in farmers recording their fertilizer application. Then finally, a new tool I suppose we have is that you're able to map your farms using Google Maps on the system, and there's approximately 250 farms have their farms mapped to date. So look, we'll be touching on that as well with John later on. Maybe just a few things to do over the next couple of days, even or into the next couple of weeks. To do a closing cover will be the most important one, I suppose. Look, the industry standard is in and around the first week of December. So over the next coming days, if a closing cover could be completed, we'll be able to calculate over winter growth. You'll get a better idea on how much grass was grown on your farm for 2021 as well. The nutrient use efficiency calculator, again, new tool brought in 2021. And I suppose, look, once cows are dry and we're able to calculate how much milk was produced in 2021, this calculator can be completed. Might be the opportunity as well just to map your farm on the system. And look, all about tonight is just to review the year and to use the reports. So then I suppose looking into the future, a couple of new tools on the way for 2022. I suppose we're just on the cusp of linking up with Dairygold to get the soil fertility results across automatically into your PBI profile. So that should be going live probably in the next 10 days, 2 weeks. We're also, I suppose, in discussions as well with Southern Scientific Dairy in Kerry and IES Labs in Carlow. So to be great to get them on board as well. We're also, I suppose, allowing the advisor or your advisor to add, edit, delete information on your behalf. That I suppose it'll just make it easier for advisors to, I suppose, basically give advice and try to, I suppose, make it easier on your side as well. And I suppose we need to alter the NUE calculator, the nutrient use efficiency calculator, to allow dry stock farmers use the calculator. And then finally, I suppose the grass utilization calculator is sitting outside of PastureBase at the moment. That calculates how much grass was utilized on your farm. And I suppose we just want to bring that in under the PBI umbrella and make that available to all our users as well. So I suppose, look, there's a good few changes coming along, and I suppose, look, you yourselves are using the application, and if you have any suggestions or any comments or changes that would make your life easier, we'll try to accommodate. We can't make all the promises, but if you send an email to support@pbi.e and we can follow up with yourselves. So that'll be the update, I'd say, Joseph, from PBI.
Brilliant stuff, Michal.
Then maybe, I suppose, if we change tact in a small bit, and we might bring John Phelan into the discussion, and welcome to tonight's webinar, John, and thanks again for taking the time out to, I suppose, to share your experiences and your trials and tribulations when it comes to grass management and comes to Pasture Base Ireland.
Yeah, no bother. No, thanks, Micheál and Joe and John for having me, and everyone that's online. I suppose just the time of the year, I suppose it is. I suppose when we're here, I wish everyone a happy Christmas anyway, and all that going forward. So an exciting couple of weeks, like. It's going to be in this house anyway.
It's good to see you with the Christmas tree up anyway.
Yeah. It's behind me there with the little angel. Well, a big angel on top of it, but from what I can see, there's no angels in this house anyway. So probably the same everywhere else.
So, John, you're dairy farming down in Kilmeaden, County Waterford.
Yeah, I suppose as you can see there, that little blue dot there underneath the word Waterford and Tramore, above Tramore, that's where we are. We're just we're right. For any of you that know or have travelled the Waterford Greenway, we're kind of halfway between Kilmac and Dungarvan, just on the Greenway. We've one paddock under the Greenway there, so that's, if any of you've travelled that before, you would have passed the farm at some stage there. So that'll give you a fair idea to where we are. I suppose we're probably, as the crow flies, then we're probably around somewhere between 4 and 5 miles from the coast, like from the sea. So gives a fair indication. We're not that far inland, like, so yeah.
A good dry farm.
Good dry farm, yeah. Above, I suppose, just on that picture, I suppose the bit of wet ground we have would be to the right of that, where the cows were that day. So there's at the bottom of the hill, we're hilly enough, like, so at the bottom of every hill there always seems to be a bog, like, so we have the best of both worlds, or the worst of both worlds. I don't know what you'd say, but we know what both worlds are like anyway. Yeah.
And to follow on with this photo here, John, we're looking at a predominantly crossbred herd.
In general, yeah. I suppose with the guts of, I suppose there's 15 years there now, kind of crossbreeding over and back, like, yeah. Predominantly crossbred, like, yeah. Small bit of Swedish red and Norwegian red thrown in the middle, and kind of ended up going back to the Frisian Jersey cross again, like, yeah.
Yeah, and impressive production figures, around the 500 kilos of milk solids and
in or around it, like, yeah, they're kind of fairly standard now from year to year. They kind of, that's it, like, they do with this, they kind of hold at that nearly every year, like, regardless. Apart from 2018, all right, I suppose the drought 2018, I think they went up to 530 or 40, but that was just the fact that they got just so much concentrate for that in there in the summer,
Yeah, perfect. If we move on to the grass side of things then, John, so I suppose, look, this table here, it shows your grass figures, and the values in the brackets is just a 5-year average. So if we look at 2021, 12.5 ton grown in 2021. About a ton back of where the average lies, John. You just might comment on.
Yeah, sure. Look, I suppose, like everyone else, sure, it was cold and wet spring, and like Micheál said there at the start, like May was, we had a good April, I suppose. Actually, we started to slip into, things got very dry here before May came, and then May came and we got blown out with rain, the same as the rest of the country. And like that, we lost a bit of tonnage in May. And I suppose the one thing that happens here, like, if you get 2 dry weeks after wet weather at that time of the year, like, you automatically start to slip into lower growth rates again, and into, so into poor quality grass. And that kind of hit us for the summer then, like, we just didn't get enough rainfall.
Yeah. It was just one of those
we tend to lose tons across the summer, where, other parts of the country, that's their time to shine, like, whereas for us it's the opposite, that's all.
And you're getting a good few grazings per paddock there, coming in at 7.8.
We are, yeah, but I suppose, we've a bit to work on there too, like, I'd like to see that higher. I suppose sometimes when the drought hits in the summer, we tend to go back out to a 25-day rotation, and try
to slow down things.
It slows down a bit, like, so that works against us then a bit, like, so just, we kind of have to do what we have to do to get through it,
Yeah, and the pre-grazing yield there for 2021 is well, coming in at 1,350 kilos of dry matter per hectare. which look, they're grazing high quality grass all the time with you, John, if the weather allows or if the climate allows. And I suppose we can see that as well in your output. You know, they are this year, like you were hitting 390 protein in May, weren't you?
We were just under the 4 mark there a couple of times in May, like, and
it's remarkable, really. Like,
yeah, they were going well. Like, we were doing around somewhere between 2.3 and 2.35 kilos, and just the quality started to hit, like, in it's hard when like they might be going into a cover at 13 or 1400, like, but if the drought hits, like, it's 13 or 1400 a stem, like, it's not nice quality, like, so we have to live with it, and that's it, like,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. 33 walks done, and look, you have a good long grazing season, 270 or 80 days. Calving very compactly as well, and look, the farm overall is probably stocked relatively high as well. When we come to, so we might just flick on to a couple of other photos.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain the one on the left there, John?
I suppose this is our summer, really. I suppose you can just see there, like, we tend to feed. I suppose last summer we fed the guts of 2 bales of cow, I think, across the summer, between silage, and then we dabbled a bit in zero grazing and a bit of second cut, but the quality went poor and that. So just, you can see there, what I do is I go out to the field with the silage, and just, you can see the line, the cows are in lines there, and I just grab a bale and start flicking it off with the fork and just drive around the field, reversing around the field, flicking it off the fork. And yeah, sure, look, they'll eat it up like grass, and there's no need to put them back in, like, and just, it's an easy way of getting, maybe 3 to 4 kilos dry matter into them, like,
Yeah, and like, you have plenty feed space and plenty storage and things inside, but it just,
we have now, we have, but just in the summertime it's a lot easier to do it outside, like,
good stuff.
Yeah.
Just one thing as well, you have a batch latch there, John. Just for anyone that doesn't have one, it's just a remarkable thing. The cows will get used to it, and to set in the morning, like, so they will, like, in the bright mornings, like, they'll use that back latch you'll get used out of that all spring, because in the springtime, they're a bit edgy and they're always kind of inclined to come in anyway. So, but, like, until the mornings get dark there in mid-August, you could say, the cows will be waiting in the yard for you every morning. All you have to do is just run out in the Jeep or quad or whatever you have, and just make sure there's nothing left out in the paddock. And I'd say 99.9% of the time, every cow is inside in the yard waiting for you. So it's a absolutely great time saver. Yeah. Good stuff.
Just for people on the call, John, that maybe haven't heard it, that's Batlatch, BATTLATCH, isn't it?
Yeah, BATT. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Batlatch. Yeah. A great little thing, like, yeah.
And look, we can see the next slide here. We can see your farm, I suppose. Farmyard is down to the right here. You have a good portion of the land across the road. There's also a bit of forestry in the middle of the farm. So
yes, yeah.
There's a good bit of biodiversity in the area.
There is lots of bits here and there, like, rock and whatnot, and just pieces. Like, I suppose the picture doesn't show the topography, like the way the thing, like, so say up there, paddock 1, the top of paddock 1 would be the highest point on the farm there, the top corner there where 1 joins 2. Like, we're not high above sea level, it's only around 300 foot. Okay. But, like, it could fall 100 foot or 70 or 80 foot there down to the bottom corner of 10 there, where you see them houses, like, so there's steep enough, like, yeah. Just, I suppose the picture doesn't show that, like, that's all,
Yeah, it looks
so there's
like
a lot of rock there as well in places and stuff, and bits like that are left out, like,
It looks like a lovely flat farm from here anyway, but
it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
in reality, it's
it's not. No.
Perfect. Sure. What we might do is we might move on, and we might go into your pasture base account.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can see your pasture base account there.
I can. It is gone.
Perfect.
Now again, but we're coming now, yeah.
Cover done there a couple of days ago. Clothing cover.
Yeah. Tuesday, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
29th. I think that was Tuesday, was it? It's either Monday or Tuesday, anyway. Yeah, so closing cover rate 12. I suppose to go back a bit on that, I suppose to get to day 12, just kind of an unusual back end for us. We were building a shed this year, and normally I'd have to put in silage there, say from the second week of October. I'd normally drop demand by putting in silage, but this year, I suppose I was sick of drawing silage out to the field at this stage. We'd stopped doing it for, maybe a month, I suppose, and I got sick of it. So we ploughed on there in October, and we grazed flat out day and night because we knew we'd have feed space coming by the end of October. So the farm cover then invariably, like on a fairly high stocking rate, like the farm cover suffered. So we had a farm cover of 500, and it was in the low 500s there in early November. So like we just pulled the pin and we housed full time, because I knew we'd, like, for our situation here for next spring, like we have to have a cover of 800 in this week, and then for that to work forward and hopefully grow, 4 a day over the next 100 days, like our next 90 days, between 90 and 100 days, like, and hopefully open up there in early February, somewhere between 11 and 1200 of a farm cover.
Yeah, which you probably will, I suppose, where you are located.
We normally would grow somewhere. We've variable winters, like, but yeah, we'd normally grow somewhere between 4 and 5 a day for the winter. Yeah.
Perfect. So look, if we move on then, and we'll just go through down to the reports option down here, down the left-hand menu. So we just might pick off the reports here as they come up on the list. So if we just go into annual tonnage. So again, I suppose this is kind of the holy grail. I suppose the big objective of grass measuring, I suppose, is to see how much grass is your farm can grow, or how much grass each paddock can grow. So I suppose after all the hard work and the 33 or 4 times that you're after walking the farm, this graph here, this report, will give you a good indication of how much grass is grown in each paddock. So just to explain this graph here, just to, I suppose, anyone on the call who mightn't be familiar with it, we have our paddocks here are listed according to, I suppose, how much grass they have grown. So the paddocks on the left have grown the most grass. Here we have paddock 13 has grown over 15,000 kilos of dry matter per hectare, or 15 tons of grass. And I suppose we can also see as well that there's some bars are green and others are yellow, and that's just differentiating there between grazing yield and the silage yield. So there was a silage cut taken off it, and again that could be surplus, or it could be a long-term first cut silage or second cut silage as well. Then on the far right, I suppose, just to draw your attention here, this is what the average farm has grown, and if you hover the mouse on any bar, you'll just get the information about it. So again, this is paddock 27. The area is just less than a hectare, 9 grazings, and I suppose it has grown just over 12 tons of grass. Then further underneath, you'll just get the detail in numbers. So again, paddock 1, the area, so many cuts, so many grazings, grazing dry matter, silage dry matter, and the total. And then on the right hand side here, you get your fertilizer and slurry application. So again, this is chemical and organic, and that's the total amount that it got in 2021. And you can follow the page away down, and down at the bottom again, you'll get the average then for the farm. And then just one final thing before we come to John, you can see the show filters button up in the top right hand corner. You can change these dates here and run the report. So you could see how much grass did you grow in for the month of May, for example. You could just simply change that to the 5th and to the 30th of May. And you could apply the filter. And again, the report will run and it will generate figures for you. Go back to last year as well, or whatever the case may be. Now, Johnny, if we turn to focus to you,
Yep.
What would you think you were disappointed for 2021, or what's kind of what do you think is holding the farm back a small bit, or by looking at that graph, is there anything jumping out at you?
Yeah, I suppose there's a tail end there. There's a bad tail end there, I suppose, at the end. Like you can see, I suppose there is a tail end, like, and we'll have to sort it out, like, and I'll have to look at it and see why it's not performing like it should be. Like, is it my management, or is it just the paddocks are poor, or some of them need reseeding, or there's different variables that way. Like I know those 3 little ones, the last 3 little bars, all right, they're 3 little calf paddocks. They're 12 A, B, and C. Like they're 3 tiny little calf paddocks there just the back of the yard. And when we were building there, they were kind of being used for this, that, and the other there this year. Like, but there's a tail between paddock 15 and up to 20. Like there is a tail there. Like, and we'll have to have a look at it and address the situation and see can we get them going better. Like, and I suppose overall we would be disappointed with the grass growth. We just like I'd be kind of looking a bit on social media there and stuff, and you'd see there in the middle of summer, like, and you'd see some lads would be popping out 120s and stuff, like, and we'd only be popping out a 40 or a 50, like, so there's something lost there, like, and look, that's nothing we can do about that, like.
Yeah, that's just where you are, and that's
just where we are. We just have to live with it, deal with it, and look, we get to make hay other times of the year when some other lads can't, so that cuts both ways, like. But I suppose if the main growing months are seriously affected by non-growing conditions, I suppose it does have a big factor overall on the overall average of the farm, what is growing, like,
Yeah, your big months there would be May, June, and July.
May, June, July, like, yeah. Like, and we got a bit of a hit in May this year, like same as everyone else, like with the rain, it was woeful there for a while, like,
It was that kind of year. And maybe if we move over then to the opposite side of the wedge or the graph here, paddock 13, 2 and 7, like, are they fresh paddocks, we'll call them, or are they?
They would be, to be fair, yeah, they would, like, yeah. And I'd know, like, I think off the top of my head, they're probably index 3s and 4s there as well, and well on target for pH, and probably not that long. 7 and 2 wouldn't be long reseeded anyway. Yeah, 7. Yeah. Like, I'd actually, there's a couple of paddocks there now, and there's a tail end that my father dabbled with a bit of Italian years ago.
Okay.
And there's a bit of Italian in a couple of them, and I suppose if you actually look back there, winter growth would be phenomenal on a couple of them as well, like, actually. But then in the drought in the summertime, they really let you down.
Right.
Yeah.
And just to remind the audience as well that if you have any questions for John or for anyone on the call here, if you just drop them into the Q&A box there at the bottom of the screen, if you type in your question, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. So again, that's the annual tonnage report. Look, I suppose it's the most important, and I suppose it's the most popular report on the application. And again, the more measurements that you can do, and I suppose we'd be encouraging all users to try to get 30 measurements in a 12-month period or for that particular year, to get this annual tonnage as accurate as possible. So then, look, if we just move on, we'll go back to our reports tab.
Just on that, just one thing on that, Michal, I'd say what John might be pushing down a bit as well too is, I suppose you can see it there as plain as day, like there's very little silage taken off the milking platform. So I suppose you're coming in at covers of 1500, like, and you're probably, if some paddocks got another week, like, well, then, like, and not cut and left and cut for silage and stuff like that, I'd imagine there would be more grass harvested over the whole farm as well, like, so that's a small factor in it as well too, maybe,
Yeah, just on that as well, John, there's a question in from someone tuning in here tonight. Very few paddocks have been cut for silage. How do you manage surplus as they arise? So I suppose you probably explained it there wasn't too many surpluses.
Well, there was very few surpluses this year. Like, I wouldn't be, I'm not afraid to take out bales at all. Like, I suppose some paddocks, there is places at the farm where we can't let a surplus arrive anytime because it wouldn't be compatible with a mower, like, so you might go in with a mower, but you won't come out with a mower. So you can see, like I wouldn't be afraid to take out silage, but just the need didn't happen this year, unfortunately. Just we didn't get enough growth.
Yeah. Okay.
I suppose that's, you're going back, that's 2020, is it?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, so you can see the difference last year. Like, I don't know what the annual tonnage is there now. 1 sec, just the thing is in my computer here.
I think it's nearly a couple of ton more.
Yeah, 14 and a half ton.
Yeah.
I suppose, John, we might see it at some of the other reports too, like the demand and the growth. they're nearly matching, so there's not
Yeah.
going to be much.
No, there's not. No. Like across the summer, like we were just tipping away there all along. Like, there wasn't much to be taken, and that was it. Like, and that's just the year that was in it,
Yeah, good stuff. So again, if we go back to the report section here on the left-hand menu, and we'll just go to the next one. So the farm cover report. I suppose this one here, is a popular enough one, particularly with guys in derogation. That I suppose it just gives a breakdown of how many covers you've done for 2021. It counts the covers there in the middle column, and then I suppose it just shows when what day it was recorded on. So John, 33 covers done in 2021.
Yeah.
You've been measuring a good while.
Yeah, sure. I suppose I'm measuring the guts of 20 years there now. I'd say very close to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're.
Yeah, I suppose like sure I couldn't operate without it anyway. Suppose I'd like to be doing a bit more of it, even, to be honest. Like you can see there, I got a bit lazy there in October, November, and a bit lazy, I suppose, from August onwards. Like I suppose.
You got busy with the shed.
Busy with the shed and stuff, like, but I suppose it isn't an excuse either. Like what's happening out in the paddock was probably more important than what's happening inside in the yard. But I suppose I was drawn to it, and that was it. Like
Yes. But I suppose we can see. Look, you have an opening cover done in January.
Yeah.
When cows haven't calved yet.
Yes.
You're going out the middle of February to see what's going on, how much have you raised, and things like that.
Yeah.
And March, I suppose, is a critical month on your farm.
Tis, I suppose, them dates in March there, I suppose they were picked for the reason that I had to go and see what's going on, like, because with the planner and everything, like in the budget, like you have to use them, they're a great tool to use, the planner and the budget. But if you don't, like, if you just stick rigidly to it and you don't go out and do a cover and see what's coming behind you again, or what's after happening in front of you, I suppose you're kind of still shooting in the dark, like, unless you go out and walk and actually look at it,
Yeah, and again, April, I suppose, a good bit of measurement going on in April. And again, I suppose it's the transition from grazing and trying to, when growth matches demand and different bits and pieces.
Yeah,
pushing on with stocking, right?
Yeah, you're hoping that month, like, that you're starting to run into surpluses there and try and keep on top of it, and that's the main thing, like,
Good stuff. And look, I suppose from the back end point of view, I know, look, things were probably busy on your farm, John, but I suppose, look, August is probably a very important month as well on all farms.
Yes, yeah.
And trying to build grass.
Targets to be met, like, and I suppose if you don't meet them targets, like, there's a serious knock-on effect going into September and October. Like, if you don't build your cover to where it should be according to your budget, like, there's a serious knock-on effect from early mid-September onwards. Like, grass will just disappear if you haven't hit where you wanted to hit, like,
Yeah, and they'll just have to be housed, I suppose. And look, that's what happened in.
Yes, and sure, look, we did it. It happened here this year, like, because we didn't do it the way we wanted to do it.
John, just a question for you there. Like, you're doing 33 sort of over the last 5 years. It's been around the mid-30s anyway, number of walks per year. Like, if you were doing many less walks than that, like, how far could you go, I suppose, before your data, I suppose, on pasture base isn't that accurate? Like, or what do you need to do? How many walks do you need to do in the year, I suppose, to have that?
God, I suppose personally, I think I'm just about, barely doing enough for me data to be okay. Like, I think I should be doing more there, like, there should be. You can see October, November, February, like, okay, like February grass tends to be slow anyway, and you're busy calf and cows there, like, but March, like April, like, you can see, like, when grass really took off in April, I suppose, like, you 14, 21, 29, like, there, but, like, there probably should have been a couple of walks done in between as well, like, and and I did, like, there's no point in saying it, that the figures don't lie there. I got lazy in October, November, like, and there's no point in saying I didn't. And,
no, I think you're right. Like, that's just from what we'd see. Like, mid-30s is sort of where you'd want to be aiming for to have. Have it.
Like, definitely, because I don't think if you're doing 20 walks maybe, and like, it's fair use to anyone doing it. Like, I applaud anyone that does the walks. It's great. You have to do it. Like, but the more you do, the more accurate information you have. Like, it's the same as anything, you know, in all walks of life. Like the more, you know.
And Micheál, just on that, Micheál, you know, you said the average was 20 there from pasture base this year. Where are the key times of the year that people are missing out? You know, in terms of that those 15 walks. Where should those 15 walks be?
I think that John has kind of answered that, or John Phelan has kind of answered that. I suppose. Look, that there's probably a good bit of measuring going on in the mid-season, when grass is growing, and might be growing out of the ditches. But I suppose it's in the shoulders really that we see that more measurement can be done, or I suppose it'll be very, very a big advantage for the farmers to do some in the shoulders. And I suppose looking at the numbers using PBI, I suppose we have about 750 farmers doing somewhere between 10 and 20 covers. So look, if a small bit more, I suppose, if we could bring those 750 farmers to the other side of 20 covers, so 20 covers plus, look, they would be a huge advantage, or a huge benefit to them for the level of information that they can get out of PBI, and even for their own farm as well. So I suppose on that, John Douglas, we might bring you in here on the farm summary report.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Just I suppose to say thanks very much for everyone for tuning in tonight. It's great to have a good size audience watching us. So, and thanks very much to John for doing this again. And as Micheál said, just if you have any questions, get them in there. So this is the farm summary report, and it's a very comprehensive report of your farm. It has a lot of perimeters there, as we can see on the left hand side. It's really like sort of a one pager, covering all aspects, I suppose, of grassland management from what you're growing, your farm covers, growth rates throughout the year at key times, open and closing cover, how much meal has been fed, milk information on reseeding, silage, and I suppose identifying your best, your worst paddocks, and your fertilizer use. So that's all on the one page. So it's a great one pager to be able to even print off, and if everyone in the discussion group will say is measuring a group of farmers, you know, they could print it off and bring it along, and it could be something to discuss among them, or discuss even on your own farm, comparing years, so comparing this year to last year and seeing improvements made there. And I suppose the thing about this report is there's some information on it that might be more relevant to you than other information. So it's about, you know, not getting overwhelmed by everything that's there, but maybe picking out a few of the key things, which we might do now. I suppose the more important things, and focusing in on them, and identifying where you're good at and maybe where needs improvement. And that's what sort of tonight is about. So look, it starts with the number of covers recorded and the tonnage and stuff, and that's we sort of covered that. I suppose Micheál's covered that. I suppose if we jump down a little bit there, we'll look at the average pre-grazing yield. So as mentioned there to start, John, your average pre-grazing yield there is 1350 for the summer, and I'm just going to focus on the summer because the spring, you know, the grass is mainly leaf, so quality is very good, so we don't have to worry as much about quality. And similarly in the back end, it sort of turns back to leaf again coming into the winter time. So quality isn't usually an issue, but I suppose when quality is an issue is in the middle of the year, the mid-season. So what does that 1350 mean to you, John?
Well, sure, I suppose, sure, it's key to the whole thing. If we can get a nice 1350, I suppose sometimes them 1350s they're not that nice to look at. But, you know, like if you, like the more green material you have gone into the cow, the more green leaf you have gone into her, that's the fuel. Like that's where she's not, you know, she's getting her fuel from the leaf. Like she's not getting much fuel from the stem, you know.
So at that stage, then you're at your sort of 2.5, 3 leaf stage. So
yes,
when the grass plant, you know, that's when there's the most leaf in the plant before it starts to develop into more stem.
Yeah, like we try to. I suppose I'd try and set the you know, I'd start off with great intentions when growth will be good, like, and we know we'll set the date, like we'll try and set the round at 18 or 19 days, like, you know, and we'll take it from there, like, and if we get rain, like we'll keep it that, like we've had summers where we did, like, you know, and it is mighty, like, so that's the target the whole time, like, you know.
And even just forgetting, we'll say for this year, other summers when it grows well, you're still sort of holding it in or around that level.
Yeah, like you can see, probably go back to like Michal showed on the average ton one there last year for 2020, like the amount of silage that was taken out compared to this year was different. Like, so the reason that silage was taken out is because of surplus to requirements, like it was taken off as bales. There was no pit silage stopped here, and like, so and that, you know, anywhere there was yellow then last year, that was stuff was baled and it's just gone too heavy to graze, like, so.
So for you to, I suppose, like keep your meal to a minimum and keep the cows milking as best as they can, that pre-grade yield needs to be in that sort of bracket, 14, 1600.
Yeah, like if you were going north to 1500, you know, you're kind of getting into, you know, you're getting into real stuff that's going to get real hard to graze out after. Like if you hit 15, 16, like 1600 is kind of, you know, it's getting real hard to graze out then, like.
Yeah, and regardless of enterprise like beef, sheep, or dairy, and like that figure there is very important. And I think from Mick O'Donovan's presentation in the dairy conference last week, it was showing the average for that period is 1669, so it's closer to 1700. So, you know, and then that's an average for the period. So you're probably within on a farm level, you're probably ranging from 1200 up to 2000 that covers over the summertime. You know, you have a bigger, wider range. So keeping between 14 and 16 is key for that. So better utilization, better regrowth, and more graze. You know, if you've grazed the right covers, you're going to graze it more often, and you're going to grow more grass that way. So looking at we'll come back to just the average growth rate. We go down to there the opening and closing covers. This is another area, John, that just when I was looking through your information, you're very strong on, and you mentioned it already about grass budgets and the shoulders of the year. I suppose how beneficial is it to you to sort of close the farm at the right cover and open it at the right cover in the springtime?
Sure, tis the key to everything. Like I like to, you know, as the cow casts, like she gets her 4 days inside in the colostrum mob, just in another shed, like, so she's managed. She doesn't see grass for them 4 days after a calf, and just from a management point of view. Yeah. And after that, then like it's you know, goodbye. Like, you know, I don't want to see you again. I don't want to see you in a shed again. Now, it doesn't always happen that way, but we do our level best to make sure that they don't see the shed again.
Yeah.
But as regards the 1200, like, I suppose we calf quick. We calf 90% in 6 weeks, maybe, in around the 90 mark there. And if we don't have it, we won't get grass. We won't get full allocation of grass, as much grass as we want to get into in the springtime. And I suppose that 1200 started last December, today 12 months, you know, or this week 12 months ago. And I think if I look back, I think we'd a cover of 800 and something again. I think might have been a tiny little bit stronger last year. I think I was up around the 850 mark. Yeah, small bit stronger, like, so, you know, and a good winter growth, like, and that's where we started, like, you know. And
over the last 5 years, it's sort of, I just averaged it out, it's about 786 is where you sort of have finished up at.
Yes,
and opened at 1091, so it's sort of closing close to 800 and opening close to 1100.
Yeah, that'll be right, like, yeah. But that's like on the farm we have, like, I suppose some lads are probably wondering, like, how, like, we're relatively dry, like, so we do get out to chomp down that grass in the springtime, you know. That's I suppose, like, the summer, the drought, like other lads are flying there. I suppose that's our time to shine. I suppose there in the springtime we do, like.
And how do you keep it consistent then? Because, like, it's fairly consistent. I look back in the last 5 years, you know, they're within sort of 50 to 100 each side of the winter time. You know?
Well, I suppose I suppose. Whatever happens in the back end of the year, like, I strive to be at 800 around the first week of December, like, so I couldn't be making decisions like I did this year a month out to make sure I was going to be at 800 at the 1st of December, because that's key to getting that opening cover of 1100 there in early February, like, you know. So obviously this last winter was fantastic for growth, like, so you can see we opened up at nearly 1250, like probably 150 higher than where we'd normally open up, like, and I suppose that shows on then as well, like, to the lowest farm cover there in the springtime was down to 670 or something is all, you know. Yeah. So it kind of showed, like, we kind of held cover the whole way through the spring. Like, at one stage there, I was actually wondering, were we going to get through it at all? But we did. We got through anyway, and we didn't take any silage.
It was sort of so cold the way it turned out anyway.
Yes, yeah, we were able to eat into the wedge, like, you know.
Yeah. And just if you scroll up there, sorry, if we go back to the growth there now. Just look at the average growth rate there, John. I suppose I'm just going to focus on the summertime, and there was a question came in on I suppose stocking rates, and I suppose linking to the demand. Well, just while we're on the open and closing bit there, when do you finish the first rotation, John? Generally,
Can vary, I suppose. We've finished as early as the 25th or 6th of March, like out this year now was way later, like God, I think we were the 5th or 6th or 7th, or I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah,
It could have been the 8th or 9th of April this year, I think, actually.
okay. Just
Yeah,
with
the way
weather,
things were
yeah.
so sluggish there for a while, you know.
Yeah, okay. So if we look back to the average growth rate for the summertime, your growth this summer was 61,
Yeah,
and the demand on the farm was 60.
yes, in around the same. Yeah.
So I think for the last 5 years, it's come in at the growth has been around 66 and demand has been around 62. So it's generally matching. And that's probably comes back with there's not much silage coming off the
Yes.
platform.
Yeah.
I suppose, are you happy with the stocking rate on the farm? Are you happy with where the demand is, John, on the farm
Sure.
for the summertime? Like, are
I
you
suppose-
comfortable there? Are you at the optimum, do you think?
Probably gone a bit over. Like, I suppose we're always praying for rain. Like, because lads will probably be thinking there, this man is nuts. Like, but I suppose when we get from June onwards, like, and it's shown, like, we fed a couple of bales of cow there this summer, like, because the quality, like, we had no choice. Like, that 60 is the average, I suppose. That looks grand there now, 60 versus 61. Like, why did he feed silage? But I suppose when you put it out over the summer, like, we had weeks where we might have only grown 40. Then you had to go in with silage, maybe kind of get back out again and stuff like that, So, but I suppose it's something we will have to look at going forward, like, because we're feeding silage every summer now,
Yeah.
And
It must add a bit of labour to the system, like.
Well, sure it does. Like, it's another job, isn't it? You have to do it. Like, if you want to put in, there's 210 cows. They're like, if you want to give them 4 kilos a day, that's 4 or 5 kilos of silage a day. Sure, that's 200 kilos in a bale. Like, it's easy added
4
up.
bales,
Like, how many bales you have to bring out to the field, and tractors only want to bring 2. Like, and it does take time. Yeah.
So so something you might look at in the future.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. And I suppose tying in with that, and we touched on the reseeding there, looking at the annual tonnage. I suppose this probably is maybe one of the reasons why I suppose if there's a bit of a tailing off on some of those paddocks, they're not growing the same. Is you're not maybe getting the chance to reseed them because if there's not enough allowed to come out for silage, there's probably not enough time to put out for reseeding, like, or.
Yeah. I suppose we're stocked. We're stocked fairly high, and I suppose in April there is probably our best chance to go at it. And if anything goes wrong at all, then you just kind of put it on the back, on the burner there, and say, I'll get to you at some stage during the year. But then it is just like from May on, middle of May on, like, you kind of it can be can be very risky burning off the field, just because we've had years where we burnt it off and reseeded, and just you have to reseed it again 2 months later, like, so there's no point in doing that, like. So I suppose it does get pushed on a bit, like, and tend to
it could burn off itself if it doesn't rain, I suppose, John.
It should be a complete failure, like, complete failure. Yeah, we've done that a few times. Yeah, so I suppose we're going to have to take the pressure off somewhere, and I suppose the only way to take the pressure off is drop the stocking rate.
Yeah. So, and just for people tuning in there, just on that average growth rate. So we'll just say, for instance, there, your average growth rate for the last, I suppose we'll say 3 years has been around 61. So what I would generally do there for people to find maybe a comfort zone, or a zone that they can manage without, I suppose, having all the additional extras of having to maybe pull in silage, regularly, we'll say, is probably, go about half a livestock unit underneath that, or which is about 8 kilos of dry matter underneath that. So if your average growth rate is 60 or 61 for the summertime, you'd want to be looking at going back down to probably sort of 52, 53 of a demand for you to have that comfort zone. Because while that might look like there's a surplus, and at the end of the summer there probably should be a few more bales than what you grazed, but it just means at the times when it does drop back to you know, drop back down by 15. You probably could hold it for a week with just grass without, and then, you know,
Yeah.
you'd have more
Yeah.
chance of rain coming and
Yeah.
it just getting back on track. So that's just for people tuning in that are sort of wondering, how do I use my summer growth rate to sort of set the stocking rate? So you can just set your demand off that basically. So if a dairy cow, would say, is eating 16 kilos, if you wanted to do the math very quickly, and we wanted to stock that back down at about 52, so 52 divide that by 16, you're coming up back coming in around 3.2 of a stocking rate for the summer,
Yeah.
which is generally, from, I deal with a lot of farmers on the East Coast, they're looking at going back to sort of 3.2
Yeah.
in that region, because just find, like, last 3 out of 4 years they've had to feed silage over the summertime.
Yes, yeah, and it is like it's yeah, 100% right. Like, because I suppose the optimist in me starts every summer thinking I'm going to grow 80 a day till August, you know. So hoping that, you know, thinking we're going to get rain there twice a week or something like so, and it's just not happening anymore. So like we are going to have to address it, because it is an issue. Like, so we will have to address it. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. I think we're sort of having finished looking through your report, John. Unless there's anything else, Michal, is there any questions there? Right?
Yeah, just maybe one thing on this report. Look, that there's just information buttons here on the left hand side. So if you just hover the mouse on any of those information buttons, you'll be able to see then, I suppose, how it's calculated, how the value is calculated, and you can also change the year up the top here as well. So they're just two little things there. I suppose, look, there's also just quickly the soil test results report down the bottom of the list here. And again, I suppose, look, it gives you a good idea of what indexes the paddocks are at, how much they're after getting, and what grass is after growing in each paddock as well. And we've also put in this summary here, which I suppose it just gives a breakdown of what paddocks are optimum for pH, P and K. And John here, 92% of the farm is optimum, so it's excellent performance. And it just breaks down the indexes and the P or the pH as well of the soil. And you have your different percentages here, and you've so many hectares in the different indexes. So that's a soil fertility report. So maybe then if we just quickly, we'll just go back to the dashboard here. Then look, we'll just go into John's farm map. So it's there, the third one. You can see that that's the map of the farm there. And then there are also different options here that you can click on. So we're displaying the different covers here. The dark green is the high covers, and the light green or the brighter green is low covers. Again, if we just go in and see the soil fertility, you can see that the pH, again, look, it's all coming up in green. Very good. From a line point of view, we can see that there's one paddock there is low in P, and there's a couple of paddocks there low in K. So again, that mapping tool, I suppose it's new, and I suppose, look, it's relatively easy enough to use, and we have a document on the help center if anyone wants to hand to map their farm.
I suppose just on that, like when you actually see it there in front of you with a color on it, it makes it awfully simple that, you know, you have to make a decision on that paddock, like, you know, or whatever was on it, like, you know, you must go address that, like, you know, like that one there that's in blue, like, you know, so it's you know, it's down at index 4.6. Is that index 2, I think, Michal, is it?
Yeah, index 2. Yeah, there's a
yeah,
2
so like, you know,
there,
straight away, without ever going to a list, like, you know, by just visually looking at it, you know, or there's a problem with that paddock, like, you know, what is it? I look and I must sort it out, like, you know. So it is I think that's a wonderful tool there now, to be honest, like, you know. But like it comes back to everything, like, you know, you have to go do your soil sample and put it into it. And I know at the start you were saying, like, it's like some of the labs now are doing them automatically, like, so everything is kind of, you know, helping you towards getting that done, like, you know, which is it looks like a great tool, to be honest, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose, look, if anyone has fertilizer put into the application, look, you can just go down to the fertilizer and slurry applications here and into the paddock summary report, And again, it'll just give you a breakdown of what was applied. You have your totals here, and the default is your bag fertilizer and your slurry. And again, if you hit on the filter there, you'll be able to just select your artificial or select your slurry, and then run the filter, and you'll be able to get the most up-to-date details there. So you can see that's after updating. So maybe
Micheál, just while you're there, just
Yeah.
want to just click the NUE for a second, just to make people aware
Perfect,
where
yeah.
it is. Seeing it's a new tool, and we can move off then.
Yeah, perfect. So again, in the NUE tool here, the nitrogen use efficiency calculator, again, that was put in there in PBI a few months ago. So you can go in and click on that fella and add new, and you can just work down through the tables and put in the details, and it'll calculate in the NUE and the nitrogen surplus for your farm as well. So again, that's one to do at the end of the year. So maybe, Joseph, if we go back to you there now, I'll just stop sharing, and I think you might have a few more slides for us.
Yeah, perfect.
I'd say do the scorecard there, because John might have to tip on there. So
Yeah, that's perfect. And we can just come back to that there in 2 seconds. So just, I suppose, just the scorecard. I know maybe a couple of you have seen the scorecard. I suppose it's been developed so the farmers could review their grazing year and see where they've, where they're performing very well, and maybe also have a look at areas to improve. So look, we see, playing a big part of over the next few years, the farmers reviewing it, but also maybe discussion groups as an ideal tool for a discussion group, either maybe a January review meeting that farmers would fill them and pull it together for a discussion. We see it being hugely advantageous. So just for people again that maybe haven't seen it up to now, maybe along with it's been on the Grass 10 user for the last few weeks attached with it. If you just Google Grass 10, go to the grass measurement side down here on the left hand side and download the 2021 pasture based scorecard, and it's available there. So just on to make people aware of the scorecard here, we just completed a scorecard for John Phelan, so we're just going to run down through it fairly lively before John has to leave us. So all the information that is on this scorecard we have gone through in the few reports. So and it's I suppose there's a prompt on every question of where the report is. So moving down through the questions, you either give yourself a score of 0, 1, 2, or 3. For the 10 questions, so there's a score out of 30. Okay, so John is getting 3 for the 30 plus measurements on question 1. Paddock, how many paddocks were grazed 10 times on the farm. It was between 2 and 5 paddocks grazed, so he's getting 2 out of 3 on that. The tonnage of grass grown was over 12 tons, so he's getting the three marks out of 3 on that. The average pre-grazing yield, as I said, very, very important throughout the summer. He's getting the three marks there as well. Grazing season length, hugely important. Days of grass really adds to your net profit at the end of the year. 3 points there again. Then the spring, did you complete a spring rotation planner, autumn rotation planner, and the 2 feed budgets? So I think there was one that was just missed out on there. I think it was, I don't know, was it a budget, an autumn budget this year, John?
It was actually this year's autumn budget, because that fucking shed took over on me again as usual. Yeah.
No, that's fair. So you got Dr. Mark there. So there's no mercy here. No mercy here.
No, rightfully so.
So again, question 7, then moving on. So recording of the fertilizer and slurry on pasture base for the year. So 3 out of 3 in that again, all fertilizer and slurry was recorded. An up-to-date suite of soil samples. I either give yourself a score of 0 or 3 for that, and 3 there again. The farm mapped on pasture base, another score of 3. And then the completing a nitrogen plan, and I suppose that's for the relay plus is have you a nitrogen plan and the nutrient use efficiency completed on pasture base Ireland. Okay, so as you can see there, fairly handy, very, very easy to do. Just when we have the few figures, 25 out of 30 there for John in that. And we just might hop back. I suppose the big learning from it is, 3 areas that we can improve on, that we make a commitment to ourselves or make a commitment to, to farmers in our discussion group. Where's the 3 areas that, be it off those 10 questions or other areas, where can we improve in 2022? So we're just going to run back here again to the slideshow. So John, just based off tonight's discussion, I suppose a couple of areas where you think really that you can make an improvements in 2022.
Sure, I suppose we're after talking a bit about it there. I suppose like the growth versus the demand in the summer is a big one. Anyway, like it's a problem every year now. So we're going to have to deal with it, like, and look at it, and it's probably we're just going to have to reduce our stocking rate over the summer, like, so that means reducing our stocking rate for the we can't just turn on the tap either and turn off the tap, like, so it'll be a reduced stocking rate for the whole year, so I suppose that's the bones of it, like. I suppose another thing then was the reseeding, and try and get a higher percentage reseeded. I suppose that's a double edge there. I suppose if we do reduce the stocking rate over the year, like, it automatically should drop demand at other times of the year and leave us reseed more. And I suppose the clover is a big thing now as well. Like, I suppose we have been incorporating clover again there with the last few years. I suppose for a while I wasn't sold on the idea. Bit of bloat and stuff kind of turned me off it there a few years ago and stuff, but went to see a few places, the likes of Salahhead there, and see what they're at there at the moment, or what they're at with the last 20 years, I suppose. And when you see it in action, like in places like that, and you go to other farmers doing it, like we were, it's excellent. Like, I can't see how you can turn away from it now, to be honest. I suppose I'm converted. Yeah.
Great
and
stuff. I
suppose the other thing then, and it's new to pasture base, there's that nitrogen, the NUE, like, to use it, and you can all see there, like, I had a 0. I haven't used it. It's plain and simple, like, so I'm going to start using that now as well and see what we can do, because you need only look at the price of nitrogen going forward for the year, like, and the slurry and that, like, so try and get more targeted use of the slurry as well, like, in the fields, and see where you need to go to him. Like, I can remember from one of Mihaal's maps there, he threw up like that yellow for that little blue field for P, like, that's going to have to be addressed, like, so we'll target that with a bit more slurry and stuff like that, so stuff like that. Yeah.
Great stuff. And I suppose, look, that's these are I suppose for the scorecard, these are the few areas that maybe farmers making commitments themselves that here's a few areas for next year that I can really go after and improve, like, as John said there. So look at John, we're just gonna, I know you have to
I just before I go, I just see a few questions in the box there, and I'm going now in a sec, but I'd hate to go away and not answer a few questions for lads that are after asking. So I'll just run through them there. I won't type back, because I was going typing back there, but then I couldn't pay attention to what you were asking me. So
I think John was throwing them into you anyways there along the way. So.
I better say go on. So there's one there from Neil Collins there, and he noticed there that the paddocks from 2020 graph were different to 2021. And the reason for that, Neil, was I changed the paddock sizes in 2021 this spring, so they were done differently. So that's why the numbers were different at the bottom of the graph. Martin DC there, hi John, was your stocking rate mid-season on the grazing flat platform? Sure, it's very close to 4, like, it's thereabouts at 4, like, so that's one of the main, like we were talking there a second ago, like, that's going to have to be addressed, because it's just not working anymore. Martin again there, also finished first rotation there. So we would be aiming to be finished 29, 30 to March, like 31st March, 1st of April, like that'll be the plan. Do you use any clover in the sward oversown? We're incorporating it in the grass seeds, yes, and have been for the last couple of years. But as regards oversown, I haven't done any yet. I see mixed results with it here and there. Like, I'd say you want to be right. You'd want your sward right before you go at it. I'd say you'd want a lot of perennial ryegrass in the sward. I wouldn't think you'd want a nice clean base, like where you can see clay and not have a base of kind of weed grass and stuff. Like, I'd say that clover seed needs to get contact with it has to have contact with soil, and if it doesn't have contact to soil, I'd say it's a complete waste of time. So I'd say the best way to incorporate it is a full reseed. Like, it's obviously the best way to get it into a paddock anyway. Then down to Niall. If John wants to work a
The next
farm
one
in
is
rain for a
interesting,
year,
yeah.
I'll swap with him. Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, fair, yeah.
You
I
can
don't
send
know.
on your
Come over.
details,
You
Niall.
can come over the west. You come over the west here, John. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe in the summertime, Niall. Maybe in the summertime, but I'd say I'll stay put for the
You
rest of the
don't know
year.
you're living, eh?
Yeah. And then the last one, how are the values for slurry calculated?
Yeah, so I suppose
Um,
they're just taken from the Teagasc Green book, I suppose, from what research from different categories of slurry as well has different values. So I suppose
Yeah, so on
information.
that, like just for Brian there, I just put in so it gives an option of the type of slurry in the pasture base for when you're putting it in. So I think there's slurry, dilute, cattle, and all that sort of stuff, or slatted tanks. So you pick what you have, and it calculates it in that way for me. Like, so I don't have to worry about the calculations anyway. You know.
Just on that, John, would you test your own slurry, or is that something you might be looking at next
No, I
year?
haven't. No, but it's after cropping up a bit in discussion groups this year. Yeah, and it's of interest, like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
But
like
there is
because
there is variation. So if
there
there's
is like
variation, then there's savings to be made. You know.
there is, and I suppose another big thing on that, and I was kind of thinking there, like if you like in general, like sure, all our silage is coming from out blocks, like, and you know, if you know what's in the tanker, if you test it, like, you know, some of it might be better off. You know, it might be cheaper. Well, this year could be different now, but some years it might be cheaper. Like if you're going long distance, it might be cheaper to do it with a bag. Like, you know, you just don't know how things are like. So, you know, you have to take all that into consideration. Like, and you know, like if you have water or slurry, like, and stuff like that, like, is that worth putting on a long draw, or do you keep the stuff for the slats and go to the silage ground with that and things like that, like, you know?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, John.
Thanks a million.
You have to.
Yeah,
you
no
have to run
bother,
away,
lads.
John.
Look, I'm
Anyway.
sure. Thanks for the opportunity, like, and I hope, you know, I really enjoyed it now, to be fair. And I hope I answered the questions for the lads there. And look, I hope everyone got something out of it, like, and sure, look, happy Christmas to everyone, happy New Year, and farm safely, lads, and we'll see you all in the new year sometime.
Been a
Yeah.
pleasure, John. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, lads.
And we've just a few more slides here to finish. Joseph, you can, or John, is it?
Yeah. So just because obviously John's dairying, so just to show how this is sort of relevant to beef farms and sheep farms, like, so again, this is just looking. I just pulled this from a farm summary report that we just looked at. So I've just put it together, I suppose, crudely out of it, just to highlight a few key bits. So this is a farmer, a beef farmer, who I suppose we're looking at the 2020 versus 2021. The summer pre-grazing yield. So last year it was over 2,000, and this year was back down where it should be in the 1,400s. And I suppose, Joe, if you just want to flick that on, we look down towards the annual tonnage. Then it's for 2021. The farm has a lot more grazings than 2020, so we can see the difference there. The 8.6 versus 4.6. We see the grazing tonnage then actually. So that's how much grass that was grazed by the animals on the farm. So these are beef cattle. It's dairy calf to beef farm. We can see there's 12.5 ton grown on the block this year versus 8.5 last year. Okay, and you know, how does that fit into actual what's going on the farm, like in terms of animal performance? So this year there was almost 50% of the animals were slaughtered by mid-October off grass. So that would have been sort of 20-month-old, 21-month-old steers and some heifers. And there was only 25% last year. So there, and this year the stocking rate is higher on that farm than it was last year also. So I think there's a difference of maybe 20 animals versus nearly 60 animals in terms of gone off grass by mid-October, with some low level of concentrate then from late summer to finish them off. So and why is there, I suppose, such a big difference, or what is the difference? If you take a pre-grazing yield of 2,132 and you take away 1,463, you're left with 669. So that's the difference in the pre-grazing yield, and I suppose a lot of that is going to be stem too, that's coming through. But if you take the growth rate of about 150 a day on those paddocks as they go from 1,400 to 2,000, so as we know, grass grows grass, so the growth rates will increase. That's about 4 or 5 days too long. So basically, what that farmer did was tighten up his rotation and possibly from maybe 25 days back to 20 days. And by doing that, he's grazed the right grass, he's utilising it, it's better leaf, the animals are performing better, and he's growing more grass. So that's how the jigsaw fits together. So it's a big difference in a few days. And similar here on the sheep farm. This is Peter McGuinness. He's a 2020 Sheep Grassland Farmer of the Year, and he's running a mid-season lambing flock in County Meath. And again, Peter made a good bit similar to actually to last the last example, covers of 2,100 last year versus 1,478 this year. And again, there was 86% of the lambs were drafted for slaughter by the 30th of September this year, mostly from grass. So that level of lambs being drafted for slaughter wouldn't be possible really with high pre-grazing yields. So you have to get the grass right, let the animals thrive, and they're away quicker or cheaper. Okay. So just to show why these figures are still relevant to beef and sheep farms.
Perfect stuff, John. That's brilliant. So look at again, we covered the bit on the scorecard already, where it is, and I suppose making a commitment to improving a couple of areas in the farm in 2022. Just before we finish up, we're having a webinar again towards the later on in January, I suppose, just to it's very relevant at the minute to have a chat about growing grass using less nitrogen fertilizer in 2022. So maybe having a quick look at the spring fertilizer plan, slightly reducing your nitrogen use, and maybe how can we use it better throughout the spring and into the summer, and maybe how clover can add to the puzzle along the way. So David O'Leary will be joining us, our 2020 Young Grassland Farmer of the Year will be joining us on that night. So Thursday the 20th of January. And I suppose, look, just to summarize, the key thing is really take time. Well, I suppose get out and get their closing farm cover done this week on pasture base, and then take time during December to analyze the 2021 grazing year, and from what John and Micheál have gone through there in terms of the reports on Pasture Base Ireland. Complete the Pasture Base scorecard and identify 3 areas for improvement in 2022. So look at the scorecard is there on the website. It's been coming out with the Grass 10 newsletter for the last few weeks in the attachments, so there's no excuse. And look, we feel it's can really add to the discussion and to make improvements for 2022. And look at our weekly Grass 10 newsletter. It's a couple of weeks left before Christmas, and then it'll be getting going in the new year again. So we're moving to an e-newsletter in the new year, so you'll be able to register and get subscribed to their new newsletter in the new year. And so look at, we have tips and hints as throughout every week throughout the year. So it just there's and the figure from Micheál from Pasture Base Ireland. So look at, just before we finish up, I know John is gone now, but I'd like to thank him, and it's super. It's great to have a farmer who will is so open with his information to go through on a night like this. And I'd like to thank my Grass 10 colleague John Douglas and Micheál O'Leary for their valuable input as always tonight. Lastly, I'd like to just thank the sponsors of the Grass 10 programme. It's Teagasc, the Department of Agriculture, Farmers Journal, AIB, Grassland Agro, and FBD. And I'd like to, we had a big number of participants online tonight. I would like to wish you all a happy Christmas, and stay safe with COVID and the restrictions and all that. And we'll hopefully see you on our next webinar in mid to late January there. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Joe. Thanks Micheál.
Thanks Joseph. Thanks lads.